કાલથી આ ટેબલ અહીંયા શાંતિપાઠ થઈ ગયો. ઓમ નમો બ્રહ્માદિભ્યો બ્રહ્મ વિદ્યા સંપ્રદાય કર્તૃભ્યો વંશ ઋષિભ્યો મહદ્ભ્યો નમો ગુરુભ્યઃ સર્વોપપ્લવરહિતઃ પ્રજ્ઞાનઘન પ્રત્યગર્થો બ્રહ્મૈવાહમસ્મી. ઓમ શાંતિ શાંતિ શાંતિ. શ્રુતિસ્મૃતિપુરાણાનામ આલયં કરુણાલયં નમામિ ભગવત્પાદં શંકરં લોકશંકરં. શંકરં શંકરાચાર્યં કેશવં બાદરાયણં સૂત્રભાષ્યકૃતૌ વંદે ભગવन्तૌ પુનઃ પુનઃ. ઈશ્વરો ગુરુરાત્મેતિ મૂર્તિભેદવિભાગિને વ્યોમવદ્વ્યાપ્તદેહાય દક્ષિણામૂર્તયે નમઃ. અજ્ઞાનતિમિરાન્ધસ્ય જ્ઞાનાંજનશલાકયા ચક્ષુરુન્મીલિतं येन તસ્મૈ શ્રીગુરવે નમઃ. Last time we saw the introductory bhashyam for this mantra. In the first two Mundak, what was said was Paravidya Ukta, the knowledge of Paravidya, that knowledge by which one gains moksha. The question was, Kasminnu Bhagavo Vignate Sarvamidam Vignatam Bhavati. That was a question. And the answer to that question was Paravidya, Akshara Brahma Gnane. That was pointed out, was not revealed, not exactly pointed out, but revealed. And when the word pointed out is used, it is to imply the lakshyartha of the words. Teaching is in the form of lakshyartha, not vachyartha. So Brahman was pointed out, meaning thereby Brahman was relieved through the implied meaning of the words, not as the direct meaning of the words. And having known which, vidyate hridaya granthi chhidyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drashte paravare. Having known which, one becomes free from the bondage. Free from the bondage of karma and karma phalas. The knot of ignorance gets removed. That was the phalam told. If the knowledge doesn't work, meaning thereby, if the pramana doesn't work for you, if it is a pramana, it works. But it may not work for a person if he or she is not ready for the knowledge. Two things one should know. That knowledge is inevitable. Knowledge is choiceless. You have no choice in knowing. Provided the knower is there and the known is there and there is a proper and adequate means of knowledge. An adequate support, sakari karanani for knowledge. Example is, if you are passing by some area, even like evening, the delis or street food, you have no choice but to get the fragrance of the food. You get it. In the flight, you have no choice but to have some non-veg smell, even though you don't like it. Because it comes, it's all closed, then you have it, because the neighbor has it and somebody behind has it and they give hot food, and once they open it, it spread the aroma. Not only with the food, when you open the eyes, you have to see. Therefore it is says, Gnanam Vastu Tantra, Natu Kartu Tantra. The doer, the seer doesn't decide whether to know or not to know. You have to know that is choiceless And you have to know it exactly as the Vastu is. The object of our knowledge decides how you should know it, how you will know it. That is one thing. So knowledge is choiceless and knowledge is immediate, provided the knower is ready. By mere presence of the knower, knowledge doesn't take place. Known is there, knower is there, means of knowledge is there, but the knower is not ready. Then knowledge may not take place. Exactly like when you have glasses, even if you see something on the board, you don't know what it is. That means you need some adjustment in the eyes through which the knowledge is to take place. That is numbers. And in Sanskrit it is called Upanetra. These eyes are netra. This is called Upanetra. So, similarly, if the mind is not ready, the knowledge doesn't take place. Even if the means of knowledge, namely the teachings of the Upanishad by a competent teacher. That means teachings of the Upanishad by Shrotriya and Brahmanishta Acharya is there. That means Pramana is there. The one Mumukshu wants to know is there. And Atma, that is a subject matter, is always available. It is Nitya Prapta. Still the knowledge doesn't take place because the Pramata is not ready. In other words, mind is not ready. So there are two things. What is the lack of readiness? What we call as Chitta Chanchalyam and Chitta Shuddhi. Purity of the mind and calmness or ekaga, focused mind. If one doesn't have, knowledge doesn't make. Look at this way. Understand the purity from different perspective. Means if you are not relatively Atma, then knowledge doesn't take place. The object of knowledge is something which is you. That means I want to become what I want to know. You are trying to know something. The object of knowledge is to be discovered as the very subject. That means you want, it is not enough that I want to know there is Ananda Atma. It is not enough that I want to know there is Shuddha Atma. It is not enough to know that there is Mukta Atma. I want to be Mukta. I want to be Shuddha. I want to be Ananda. That is absolute. Nirapeksha Ananda, Nirapeksha Shantihi, Nirapeksha Muktihi, Nirapeksha Asangatvam, Nirapeksha Sthairyattvam, all that is self, absolute manner. To be that, in other words, to own, exact word would be to own up that self. I should be relatively free. I should be relatively Shanta. I should be relatively Shuddha. I should be relatively Pavitra. And that relative selfness, if I use the word, relatively the status of becoming relatively like self is called Shuddhantakar. Just for example, when Atma is absolute freedom, what is relative freedom? Relative freedom is Vairagya. Relative freedom is objectivity. Relative freedom is to live in the awareness of Ishvara, the order. I look at the world objectively. tomorrow I'm going to talk in this Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We are highly opinionated person, especially modern society, more so the Western society. Highly opinionated society. Whether I have enough knowledge, enough wisdom or understanding or not, there is an opinion. And a strong opinion. And the worst thing is, that's a growth in a way, but that's a side fallout of the growth unless you are cautious. Our likes and dislikes, our opinions become subtler and subtler. And unfortunately, very stronger and stronger. Strong opinions and finer opinions lends me to be disturbed by small change in the world outside towards my dislike. If that change happens, then I am unhappy. I am disturbed. And if there is a possibility of change, I get anxiety. I get stressed. All this is the fallout of our opinionated likes and dislikes, strong and very subtle things. What is freedom? When I can say, it's okay. As they say, cool. They tell me, Swami, you are very cool. Not cool, cool. So that is freedom. If I am free, small changes here and there, somebody looking at me at a differently, someone not smiling at me, someone not asking me those questions which I want. You know, this one of my students, he was in Canada, he was telling me, he had told me some 15, 17 years ago, way back in 2005 or 6, 4 or something. He had a good, good acquaintanceship with one of his colleague, a lady, and obviously treated like her sister and helped her, and they were going good. But then suddenly she was disturbed for 3 days. He couldn't understand what happened. Finally, somebody told him that my dog is not well and you never asked about it, so I am disturbed. He didn't like that. You should have asked me about my dog. Khabar puchhiyo jo tare. You should have expressed sympathy for my dog. You know, and if somebody doesn't express sympathy, I get disturbed. That is a bondage. I get unhappy. That is a bondage. Pilala manmai nin kathiyawadi bhasha ena hatmai nin manmai. Then he told me, મને કે એમ આપણે દાડામાં 3 વાર પૂછીએ, આપણે હું પૂછવામાં હું જાય કે I don't mind asking thrice a day. What's the big deal in asking? But this is such a small thing. It's because highly opinionated approach. All my acquaintances, all my near ones should or must inquire to me about my pet, who has I have a value for it, who has an important role in my life, important place in my life, and that person must ask opinion. That is bondage. Please understand. That is dukkha. Okay, small things. So that relatively free, that means relatively free from likes and dislikes. That means relatively from, in a known words, Shuddha Antakaranam. Understand? So the obstruction is lack of preparedness, like Atma. I am not true to the Swarupa of Atma in a relative sense. That is a Shuddhi obstacle. And for that, you require a means to get Shuddhi. And there are 2 means, Antaranga Sadhanani, Bahiranga Sadhanani. You know, external means and internal means. External or internal means were discussed in terms of Omkar Upasana, and in external means is your view of life and your way of life. What is the view of life? I have mentioned earlier also, but I would like to put it in this context. Hindu Dharma, though popularly called as is a way of life, even our politicians and government tells, no, Hindu Dharma is a vision of truth. And to gain the vision of truth, there is a very well defined, very well ascertained view of life. And there is a very well defined, well ascertained way of life. The way of life is based on view of life, and view of life is based on vision of the truth. What is the view of life? Hindu view of life, what is that? Sharira madhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. This Manushya Janma is meant for dharma. That's a view of life. And ultimately, it is meant for moksha. Artha Kama is accepted. No one denounces the Artha Kama. Shastra accepts the need for Artha Kama if it is there. It validates. But then I fulfill my Artha Kama through dharma. Dharmad arthasya kamasya. Through the means of dharma. And kama in the desire. This is another confusion. You give up all the desires. So that is not a view of life. Meditate and give up desires. Be blank. That means stone yourself. No, that's not that. Desire, having a desire is also validated. Even kama and krodha is also validated. You should not have anger. You should not have desires. That should and should not is not talked in Shastra. Bhagavan says, Kamosmi Bharatarshapa. Hey Arjuna, I am the Kama. Kama means any desire. Not only one type of bhoga, any type of desire. Desire to eke out happiness through experience of the external world is Kama. An experience of external object other than me, outside me, and thereby experiencing that I'll become happy, that attitude and that pursuit is called Kama. It can be a good rupa and ranga, form and color, maybe a good music, anything, maybe good relationship. I'll be happy in presence of if I live with my son or my father or my grandfather, whatever it is. The Kama. It doesn't know, nothing wrong in it. But then the vision of life is told in the same verse. And Kama is validated, provided Bhagavan says, Dharma aviruddho kamosmi bharatarshava. Here Arjuna, the Kama which is not in opposition to Dharma. The Kama which is valid, which is approved by Shastra. Not the Kama means not any fancy. Legitimate Kama. And legitimate pursuit for Kama is me. Legitimate desire and legitimate pursuit to fulfill a given desire for Artha Kama is me. Bhagavan says. Vyasji also says that. May you have Artha Kama. But then how? Dharmad Artha Kama. Your end also should be legitimate and the means also should be legitimate. And if I can commit to that, if I am master of myself to that extent that I pursue, I entertain, I pursue only legitimate kamas. That is called manonigraha. That is called uparama. Uparatihi ka swadharma anusthana. An incapacity to commit to only legitimate. Incapacity incapacity to withdraw from illegitimate. And my own incapacity to push myself to legitimate is nothing but Duryodhana. Janami dharmam nachame pravati. Janami adharmam nachame nivrutti. In other words, look at this Hindu psyche. See how certain things were ingrained in our, I would say, DNA. Even now it is ingrained. That means if it is illegitimate karma, I will incur papa. And if the means is also illegitimate, I will incur papa. Correct? Because we accept the law of karma and karma phala. So when I want to keep away myself from papa, that is a vision of life. That is Arjuna. Arjuna withdrew from the battle. Though his end was legitimate, it was permissible, permitted by Shastra. Being a Kshatriya, he can have kingdom, he can have name and fame, he can have all those kingly Grihastha. Being a Grihastha, he could have all the pleasures. You are permitted. But that battle, which was a means to achieve the kingdom and princely pleasures and etc., that was illegitimate. Papam. He saw papam in fighting. Therefore, he didn't want to do that. The purpose of withdrawal, the cause of withdrawal was nothing, not bhayam. Or if you say bhayam, yes, but for of what? Papa bhayam. I don't want through illegitimate means. That is validation. So this is dharma. Commitment to dharma is a view of life. And it includes samanya dharma and vishesha dharma. Both in my commitment to what I am expected to do as a particular, my position, which special position in the society, in terms of my relationships and connections, whatever. That is one thing. And secondly, in terms of my position in the nation, etc., I commit to certain karmas, means following my duty, samanya dharma, following the values, and few disciplines of life that Shastra enjoins, mainly tapas, etc. So that is one way, that is a means for internal purity. That's a means for preparing the mind. That is bahiranga sadhana, external means. At the same time, one needs very subtle mind. Not only pure and focused mind, but you have to have certain subtlety in your thinking. Because the vastu, object to be known, is what anoho aniyan mahato mahi. It is subtler than the subtlest. That being a case, therefore Yamaraja says, drashyate tvagraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshma darshibihi. One should have subtle buddhi. And that, if not there, then even if the Upadesha takes place, the Upadesha is given, Pramana Vyapara takes place, one doesn't gain the knowledge. Here, when the disciple is relatively ready, in that case, repetitive teaching helps one to see the subtler and finer part of the teaching. So, and Vastu also is same. So this chapter talks about the secondary means of Satya, etc. values. Satyameva Jayate na nrutam. That emblem statement of Bharat Sarkar, Satyameva Jayate, appears in this Mundaka. So talks of those certain values. And the object to be known, namely Brahman, being very subtle, it has to be taught again and again. Varadhanyena tattva nirdharanam cha prakarantaranena kriyate. Primarily, though the secondary means of Satya, etc. is told, but that is not the Tatparya. Tatparya is Vastu Nirdharanam. Revealing the Vastu. That is Brahman. Brahma Tattva Nirdharanartha. That means revealing yourself to be Brahman. Living yourself to be Jagat Karanam Brahman. Yathornanabhi Srujate Grunnate cha Yatha Prithivya Moshada Sambhavanti. Yatha Sadah Purushat Keshalomani Tatha Aksharat Sambhavati Vishwam. That is you. Jagat Karanam Brahman, you, to reveal that Vastu. This chapter is begun. And as I told last time, that teaching is a very, very peculiar thing. And it requires a lot of subtlety and a lot of clarity. And so also learning. The very apparently paradoxical statement is the Sakshi, the witness, and there is something witnessed, but the witnessed is not separate from the witness, and witness is separate from the witnessed. A very peculiar thing. Or in context of this Shastra, we says, Brahmaiva Amrutam, Purastad Brahma Paschatad Brahma Dakshinatascha Uttarenacha. In the front, at the back, on the right, on the left, on the top, on below, everything is Brahman. If everything is Brahman, who is a seer? Everything is Brahman, who is a seer? Like if you go to south of India, you can make out everything is Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma, like Sarvam Khalu Idam Raisamayam. It is all rice. I remember way back in 82, we had a big, I think I had told that. Swamiji had, by the big side, a big businessman in this very popular group, Lakshmi Group place in the south of India. They had a very big name those days. And I was told that all top-notch businessmen are coming and we are going to get 7-course dinner. The Sakshatji and we were together. He was a good friend of mine. We were sharing the rooms and all that. So, and I was traveling in south of India for last 1 week and was fed up, literally fed up. Everywhere rice, rasam, sambar, and nothing else. And we Gujjus require roti and dal and nothing else. And they give sweet. That day I could manage sweet. I could handle. I had no diabetes problem. But they give only little and sometimes in the hand only payasam, little. Arey, kya deta hai? Or they will do in a lot in the banana leaf this much. We are used to with full 3-4 katoris. If it is payasam. So I was almost starving. And rasam so sour and all that. So he created, Sakshatji saw that I am suffering. said, don't worry, we are going to get 7-course dinner. 7, he got some news. Because being a Tamilian, he happened to go there and ask Amma, and Amma said, this is a thing. And then it was a big gala. They had a huge lawn and they had all silver thalis and spoons and all typical Taj, like white, so like hospital white dressed, all servants serving the food and chef coming with a typical 5-star hotel cap and all that. And all lighting and down some Indian music, and it was big. So it was very well hyped. And I remember this because it is one of the very strong disappointments that has gone into my psyche. So I was so disappointed that day that I can't forget that disappointment because of the hype, he made me. He was excited and made me excited. And when I went there, it was 7-course dinner. But what is 7-course dinner? Rasam rice, sambar rice, imli rice, coconut rice, lemon rice, sarvam rice mayam. and in the end, little payasam. I said, what is this? So I remember that. So when it is sarvam rice mayam, there is a seer who sees it is rice. Sarvam brahmamayam, then there is a seer who sees Brahman. Now at the same time, Shastra says you are Brahma. So how can Brahman be seer and seen? Very peculiar thing. And if Brahman is seen, then how can it be the self? And how can the self be that is be seen? So there is a very peculiar relationship. And how do you say, this is again a statement which we have discussed, Samanadikaranyam. How can everything is Brahman needs to be told? If it is Brahman, then I should see as Brahman. If it is rice, I see as rice only. I need not be told that this rice is rice. All rice is rice. No, it is rice. It is over. That means there is Brahman plus something called everything. And that so-called everything is to be negated as though, is to be resolved. You have to know the reality of that so-called everything. I remember I didn't say it is to be resolved totally. If it is resolved, then there is nothing, everything. I am saying you have to understand that nature of the so-called everything. And that understanding is called mithya. I am not dismissing that everything as non-existent. If it is non-existent, how do I see it? And if it is there, how do I say, no, it is not this, but it is Brahman? You cannot say. You cannot say, if I say this and this watch and this is the cover of the mobile and everything is plastic. But if it is plastic, where is the question of everything? There is a peculiar relationship between plastic and everything. Sarvam khalu idam Brahma, there is a peculiar relationship between Brahman and Sarvam that needs to be understood. And therefore, Punarukti is necessary. Repetition is necessary. So, prakarantarena, kriyate. Pradhanyena tattva nirdharanam prakarantarena kriyate. Why? Athyanta duravagahyatva. Very, very difficult to know. It doesn't say impossible. Though it is very difficult to know, at the same time, I would say it's very, very simple to know. Please understand this. Please understand. You cannot say this for any knowledge. You cannot say physics is very difficult. Nanoscience is very difficult. Astrophysics is still more difficult. Medicine is still difficult. There is no difficult and simple knowledge. Knowledge, these adjectives can't go to knowledge, though we use it. Because wherever everything is wrongly used, so we use this another wrongly. Like Swami used to say, you can't say golden ring. Then golden is an adjective and ring becomes a substantive. You should say ringy gold. That's the right way of saying it. It was true. The whole world is different. Similarly, we said difficult knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. Difficult and simple is an adjective, not qualifying knowledge, qualifying your preparedness for that given knowledge. If you are a person of literature, then mathematics is difficult. Biology is further difficult. Engineering is difficult. And this fellow is purely mathematical mind or philosophical mind or analytical mind. In for that person, literature may be difficult. I once tried, when I hear, I felt like saying, nowadays there is a style of quoting some shairis and couplets, ghazals in your lectures. Especially public speakers often do. Successful so-called crowd pleasers and all that. And nowadays in parliament, this has started, Even our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, I had never heard telling like this. He also started telling shairis and couplets in the parliament. Somehow somebody gives him the very appropriate shairis, where he gives a dobi pasad to Rahul Gandhi and all that, He gives a pakka answer befitting, he finds it out. But then it's so difficult. However I try, I can't remember that. I can't say this is difficult. I am not ready for it. That's all. I don't have a mindset for that. There are guys who read once and remember. And they quote that at the time. But if it is shloka, it is easy for me. Shloka is not easy or difficult. My mindset is like that. Simple as that. So there is no simple knowledge and difficult knowledge. Vastu is subtler. Therefore, knowledge becomes difficult if you don't have very subtle mind. Necessary subtle cognitive mind. So he says, Atyanta Duravagahyatvat. Very, very difficult to comprehend. Or you would say, unless one has very subtle and sharp mind, one cannot comprehend. The pramana doesn't work. One may do pramana vyapara, but it will not bear the phalam. Pramana will not bear the phalam in terms of moksha. The phalam of this is gaining moksha. Moksha may not be possible. And therefore, it is taught again and again. Now, until this fellow recognizes, owns up himself or herself to be Brahman, but continues himself or herself to know as an experiencer, as a doer, as an enjoyer, karta, bhokta, or looks upon as an entity, individual. Till then, this fellow will have punya papa, and to exhaust punya papa, there will be janma marana. And that's being there since beginningless time. It is endless punya papas, almost infinite. So it cannot be exhausted and cannot get free from the bondage of samsara. So this jiva has, that is called jiva. That jiva needs to recognize itself to be Brahman. The jivatmam is to be disowned as I, not giving up. You disown. There is no becoming. It is not that jiva has to become Ishvara. He is Ishvara. It's a matter of owning up. The status of being jiva is purely out of ignorance. And if jiva knows, gains the knowledge of oneself and ignorance is removed, knows itself to be Brahman, then jiva is Ishvara. Jiva is free from ignorance. To explain these two as though, there is a beautiful imagery of two birds perching on the one branch of a tree, and the one is enjoying or exhausting the phalas, the fruits that grow on the tree, varieties of fruits, and the other one is just a witness, just a sakshi bird. The one who blesses the karta, bhokta, the jiva, okay? Who is behind every activity of this karta, bhokta, as who is behind as adhisthana, as satta spurti pradata, okay? And praise, there are two birds, one who is flirting around, and the other one is doesn't going around. So to be free from this samsara is the one who is running around, recognize itself with the other one who doesn't run around. That is a moksha. And that one has to recognize. In reality, I am neither enjoyer or doer. I am the sakshi. And the same, therefore, the same non-dual self, the same non-dual Brahman is presented as two birds. One who enjoys, the other one who doesn't enjoy, just a satta spurti pradata. It is a kalpana, only to point out that one need not give up anything. The one who thinks I am this is to disown the wrong identity and own up what really the person is. Okay, look at this. Look at the mantra now. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya. Samanam vruksham parishasvajate. Samanam vruksham parishasvajate. Tayoranyah pippalam swadvatti. Tayoranyah pippalam swadvatti. Anashnan anyo avichakashiti. Anashnan anyo avichakashiti. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya. Samanam vruksham parishasvajate. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya. Samanam vruksham parishasvajate. Tayoranya pippalam swadvasti. Anashnan anyo avichakashiti. Tayoranyam pippalam swadvasti. Anashnan anyo avichakashiti. Whole mantra. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya. Samanam vruksham parishasvajate. Tayoranyam pippalam swadvatti. Anashnan anyo avichakashiti. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya. Samanam vruksham parishasvajate. Tayoranyam pippalam swadvasti anashnananyo abhichakashiti. Dva. Actually, it's a Vedic prayoga. It should be dve. I mean, as per the modern grammar, they are right. Dva means two. Suparnaha. Very shining birds. Sustuparnaha. Very well shining birds. Sayuja. The yuja means yukta. United. Those who sayuja. These two who are always united. Those two are always together. Okay. Two shining birds who are always together. Sakhaya. Both of them. Sakhaya here doesn't mean friend. Both of them have a same origin. They stem from the same root. How this is possible? We will see this. They are having both of them they are having same origin. Samanam vruksham parishasvajate. Same tree. They are perching on the same tree. Parishasvajate. They are perched. They are there on the same tree. Okay. Tayoho anyam. Of these two, one. Anyam means one. Of these two, one. Pippalam swadvati. Pippalam means fruits. Swadu means delicious. Atti means eating. Of these two, one eats what? Very tasty fruits. Okay, many tasty fruits. Anyaha, whereas the other one, avichakashiti. The other one is just watching. How? Anashnan, without eating. Though they have same origin, one is eating the fruits. The other one is coming from the same origin, is not eating at all and is just witness. It is just watching. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya. Okay. Who are these dva suparna? Who are these two birds? One is Jiva and one is Ishvara. These are the two birds, as though the Jiva is having an individual upadhi, a particular body-mind complex, identification with a given body-mind complex. Ishvara is Mayopadhi, he who has the identification. It's not right word, but he owns it up. What? Samashti upadhi called Maya. They are shining. Dva suparna. Shining means because consciousness is shining. Shining like a gold. Bhagavan is called Hiranya. Hiranyamaste astu Bhagavan. Vishve Hiranya Bahave, Hiranya Rupa, Hiranya Varna, Hiranya Pate, Ambika Pate, Uma Pate, Namo Nama, Hiranya. Means of the nature of consciousness. It expressing itself as a consciousness, expression of conscious being. Pippalam swaduvatti. Swaduvatti means phalamatti. The fellow is enjoying the fruits. Okay. Why fruit, you have to say? He is enjoying the fruit. No, there is no enjoyment. Okay. there is a exhaustion of fruit only. But then it is sometimes delicious. With the hope of having further delicious fruits, the fellow continues. So hope is a swadu phalam, or some sukham one or she gets is swadu phalam. Okay, dva suparna seuja sakhaya samane vrukshe samanam vruksham, on the same tree, in the same branch, you can say. Parishasvajate. They are perching on the same branch. They're there. And then the second one doesn't eat at all. Tayoranyan abhichakashit. How abhichakashiti means what? So let it be there. What are they? It may be sun and the king and the purusha and etc. Let it be whatever it is. So he is only a witness. He's just watching, So that is called parishasvajate. Tayoranyam anashnan avichakashiti. And then the other one who is eating, what happens to them? You see, then he is not there or something like that. Means what? The vice person discovers himself to be Brahman. That not their ahankara is destroyed means ahankara stands falsified. That aham karta, aham bhokta is only vyavaharika. Means this is only transactional reality. There is no quantifiable reality in the end. Transactional reality, vyavaharik satyam. So let it be there. It is useful, let it be there. If it is not useful, let it not be there. Then what does it matter to you? You are trupta. Therefore, this is a transactional reality. So ahankara also is a transactional reality, and it is a badita ahankara in that sense. Okay. We'll see the verse next mantra and a few things about this mantra tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. See you tomorrow.